the social media and stuff. Hello. Hi, friends. I remembered my late today, so that's good. Alright, there we go, Facebook. Let's do Twitter. Alright, how is everyone's days going today? I was really dumb today and didn't take my antidepressant. And then WWE, despite classifying itself now legally as an essential service, has released a whole bunch of their wrestlers, and I'm really sad about that because a lot of the people that I liked are gone. But here we are, together, still technically on the internet, but not on Twitter, and not looking at the horrible news outside, but instead we are here, together, and this is Story Ranger Presents, a book at bedtime, and tonight it's Wildcard Wednesday. This is, I think, technically the first Wildcard Wednesday. I announced a Wildcard Wednesday last week, but it wasn't really like clear what that was, but we're now in the new streaming schedule. We concluded The Hobbit last night, so now the channel Mondays and Fridays are dark days. Mondays because that's Broadway's dark day, Fridays because my voice is not not holding up that well. I went from, you know, doing regular theater to engineering where I did nothing, to drama and computer science where I did more, and now I'm kind of in this space where I haven't taken voice lessons in a while, in a decade, so my safe working limit for how long I should be using my voice per day and how many days that can be is a little lower than usual. Yeah, it's kind of all that's important about that, really. Tonight's stream is not sponsored. I just also, we ran out of caffeine on the weekend, so I had caffeine withdrawal yesterday, which was terrible. So now I'm trying to like dose myself carefully so we don't run out again, because my lovely partner went and got us Coca-Cola from Costco yesterday. Braved the Costco lines for me, which I felt very happy about. I've got my QDC shirt on, reminding you all that you matter. Because you do. You do. Even if you're not watching live, even if you're watching later on a VOD or on YouTube, you matter. I'm glad that you're joining us. Yeah. Alright. So, tonight, because it's Wildcard Wednesday, which means I get to do whatever I want. We're going to read from Shakespeare's sonnets. I'm reading out of the Norton Shakespeare Volume 1, which I bought off an Irish friend many years ago. Sonnets. To the only begetter of these ensuing sonnets, MWH, all happiness and that eternity promised by our ever-living poet, wisheth the well-wishing adventurer in settling forth. Sonnet number 1. From fairest creatures we desire increase, that thereby beauty rose might never die. But as the riper should by time decrease, his tender air might bear his memory. But thou, contracted to thine own bright eyes, feedest thy light flame with self-substantial fuel, making a famine where abundance lies, thyself, thy foe, to thy sweet self too cruel. Thou that art now the world's fresh ornament, and only herald to the gaudy spring, within thine own bud buryest thy content, and tender churl makest waste in niggarding. Pity the world, or else this glutton be, to eat the world's due by grave and thee. Sonnet number 2. When 40 winters shall besiege thy brow, and dig deep trenches in thy beauty's field, thy youth's proud livery, so gazed on now, will be a tattered weed of small worth held. Then, being asked where all thy beauty lies, where all the treasures of thy lusty days, to say within thine own deep sunken eyes were all an all-eating shame and thriftless praise, how much more praise deserved thy beauty's use, if thou couldst answer, this fair child of mine shall sum my count and make my old excuse, proving his beauty by succession thine. This were to be new made when thou art old, and see thy blood warm when thou'st feel cold. Sonnet number 3. Look in thy glass, and tell the face thou viewest. Now is the time that face should form another, whose fresh repair, if now thou not renewest, thou dost beguile the world, unblessome mother. For where is she so fair, whose unerred womb disdains the tillage of thy husbandry? Or who is he so fond would be the tomb of his self-love to stop posterity? Thou art thy mother's glass, and she in thee calls back the lovely April of her prime. So thou through windows of thine age shalt see, despite of the wrinkles, this is thy golden time. But if thou live remembered not to be, thou die. But if thou live remembered not to be, die single, and thine image dies with thee. Unthrifty loveliness, why dost thou spend upon thyself thy beauty's legacy? Nature's bequests give nothing, but doth lend, and being frank she lends to those are free. Then, beauteous niggard, why dost thou abuse the bounteous largesse given thee to give? Prophetess the usurer, why dost thou use so great a sum of sums, yet canst not live? For having traffic with thine self above, thou of thyself thy sweet self dost deceive. Then how when nature calls thee to be gone, what acceptable audit canst thou leave? Thy unused beauty must be tombed with thee, which used lives the executor be. Those hours that with gentle work did frame the lovely gaze, wherever every eye doth dwell, will play the tyrants to the very same, and that unfair which fairly doth excel. For never resting time leads summer on to hideous winter, and confounds him there. Sap checked with frost, and lusty leaves quite gone, beauty o'er snowed, and bareness everywhere. Then were not summer's distillation left, a liquid prisoner pent in walls of glass. Beauty's effect with beauty were bereft, nor remembrance what it was. But flowers distilled, though they were with winters met, lose but their shadow, lose but their show, their substance still lives sweet. Then let not winter's ragged hand efface in thee thy summer ere thou be distilled. Make sweet some vile treasure, thou some place, with beauty's treasure ere it be self-killed. That use is not forbidden usury, which happies those that pay the willing loan. That's for thyself to breed another one, to breed another thee, or 10 times happier, be it 10 for 1. 10 times thyself were happier than thou art, if 10 of thine 10 times refigured thee. Then what could death do if thou shouldst part, leaving thee living in posterity? Be not self-willed, for thou art much too fair to be death's conquest and make worms thine heir. Is this entire thing just have kids? I think this entire section of sonnets is just, you should have kids, okay? Have kids. I don't want to have kids. So perhaps I shall skip ahead until I can get to sonnets that are about something more fun than children. For me, I do not mean that children are not fun. I am an educator, I work with children, I love kids. I just don't particularly want any of my own at this moment. So I think I'm going to stop reading sonnets all about how I should have kids. Sonnet 101. O truant muse, what shall be thy amends for thy neglect of truth in beauty died? Both truth and beauty on my love depends, so dost thou too, and therein dignified. Make answer, muse, wilt thou no haply say, truth needs no colour with his colour fixed, beauty no pencil beauty's truth to lay, but best is best if never intermixed. Because he needs no praise, wilt thou be dumb? Excuse not silence, for lies in thee to make him much outlived a gilded tomb, and to be praised of ages yet to be. And do thy office, muse, I teach thee how to make him seem long hence as he shows now. My love is strengthened, though more weak in seeming. I love not less, though less the show appear. That love is merchandised, whose rich esteeming the owner's tongue doth publish everywhere. Our love was new, and then but in the spring, when I was wont to greet it with my lays, as Philomel in summer's front doth sing, and stops her pipe in growth of riper days. Not that the summer is less pleasant now than when her mournful hymns did hush the night, but that wild music's burden every bough, and sweets grown common lose their dear delight. Therefore, like her, I sometimes hold my tongue, because I would not dull you with my song. Oh, I love that. For those of you who are not obsessed with Shakespeare, like I am, I'm gonna break this down a little bit, because I really like this one. So, the author, up in 101, the speaker of this sonnet was kind of accusing the person of saying, like, just because something is beautiful, does that not mean that we should, like, try to recreate it? Just because something, like, you love something, does that not mean that you shouldn't say, like, it's saying sort of, like, it just because, like, you acknowledged in the past that something is beautiful, doesn't mean that you shouldn't keep acknowledging that, and just because, like, you said I love you doesn't mean you shouldn't keep saying that. And then the narrator of 102 is coming back with, my love is strengthened though more weak in seeming. My love is stronger even though it seems weaker because I've stopped saying it as much, but it's sort of saying, like, you know, at the beginning of a relationship, when you're in that bloom, you're saying a lot and you're very emphatic, and then as the relationship goes on, you start to sort of feel that, like, if you say things too often, it starts falling on deaf ears. So sweets grown common lose their dear delight. So if I say things too many times, then it stops being as meaningful. Yeah, so the whole of 102 is just like, I love you. I just, you know, you don't always have to, like, scream about it. Aw, that's really, I like that one. 103. Alack, what poverty my muse brings forth, that, having such a scope to show her pride, the argument all bear is of more worth than when it hath my added praise beside. Oh, blame me not if I can no more write. Look in your glass, and there appears a face that overgoes my blunt invention quite, dulling my lines and doing me disgrace. Were it not sinful then, striving to mend, to mar the subject that before was well, for to no other pass my verses tend than of your graces and your gifts to tell, and much, much more than in my verse can sit, your own glass shows when you look in it. To me, fair friend, you can never be old, for as you were when first your eye I eyed, such seems your beauty still. 3 winters cold have from the forest shook 3 summers' pride. 3 beauteous springs to yellow autumn turned, in process of the seasons I have seen. 3 April perfumes into 3 hot Junes burned, since first I saw your fresh, which yet are green. Ah, yet doth beauty like a dial hand steal from his figure, and no pace perceived. So your sweet hue, which methinks still doth stand, hath motion, and mine eyes be deceived. For fear of which, hear this, thou age unbred, ere you were born, was beauty's summer's dead. Let not my love be called idolatry, nor my beloved as an idol show, since all alike my songs and praises be to one of one, still such and ever so. Kind is my love today, tomorrow kind, still constant in a wondrous excellence. Therefore my verse to constancy confined, one thing expressing leaves out difference. Fair, kind, and true is all my argument, fair, kind, and true varying to other words, and in these change is my invention sped. 3 themes in one, which wondrous scope affords, fair, kind, and true, have often lived alone, which 3 till now never kept seat in one. When in the chronicle of wasted time I see description of the fairest wights, and beauty making beautiful old rhyme in praise of ladies dead and lovely knights, then in the blazon of sweet beauty's brow, of hand, of foot, of lip, of eye, of brow, I see their antique pen which would have expressed such a beauty as you master now. So all of their praises are but prophecies of this our time, all your prefiguring, and for they looked but with divining eyes, they had not skill enough your worth to sing. For we which now behold these present days have eyes to wonder, but lack tongues to praise. Not mine own fears, nor the prophetic soul of the wide world dreaming on things to come, can yet a lease of my true love control, supposed as forfeit to a confined doom. The mortal moon hath her eclipse endured, and the sad augurs mock their own presage. Incertainties now crown themselves absurd, and peace proclaims all lips of endless age. Now with the drops of this most balmy time my love looks fresh, and death to me subscribes, since spite of him I live in this poor rhyme, while he insults o'er dull and speechless tribes. And thou in this shalt find thy monument, when tyrants' crests and tombs of brass are spent. What's in the brain that ink may character, which hath not figured to thee my true spirit? What's new to speak that now to register, that may express my love or thy dear merit? Nothing, sweet boy, but yet like prayers divine, I must each day say o'er thy very same, counting no old thing old, thou mine, I thine, even as when first I hallowed thy fair name, so that eternal love in love's fresh cage weighs not the dust and injury of age, nor gives to necessary wrinkles place, but makes antiquity for aye his page. Finding the first conceit of love there bred, where time and outward form would show it dead. Oh, never say that I was false of heart, though absent seems my flame to qualify. As easy might I from myself depart, as from my soul, which in thy breast doth lie. That is my home of love. If I have ranged like him that travels, I return again, just to the time, not with the time exchanged, so that myself bring water for my stain. Never believe, though in my nature reigned all frailties that besiege all kind of blood, that it could so preposterously be stained to leave for nothing all the sum of thy goods, of thy good. For nothing this wide universe I call, save thou, my rose, in it thou art my all. Alas, 'tis true, I have gone here and there, and made myself a motley to the view, gored mine own thoughts, sold cheap what is most dear, made old offences of affections new. Most true it is that I have looked on truth askance and strangely, but all above these blenches give my heart another youth, and worse essays proved thee my best of love. Now all is done. Have what shall have no end. Mine appetite I nevermore will grind on newer proof, to try an older friend, a god in love, to whom I am confined. Then give me welcome, next my heaven the best, even thy pure and most loving breast. Oh, for my sake do you with fortune chide, the guilty goddess of my harmful deeds, that did not better for my life provide that public means which public manners breed. Thence come it with my name receives a brand, and almost thence my nature is subdued to what it works in like the dyer's hand. Pity me then, and wish I were renewed, whilst like a willing patient I will drink potions of isel gainst my strong infection. No bitterness then that I will bitter think, nor doubt penance to correct correction. Pity me then, dear friend, and I assure ye even that your pity is enough to cure me. Interesting. How's everyone doing tonight? Hopefully better than I am. Sorry, I'm a little low energy tonight, viewers, but we're living. We're living. You know what? I think I'm going to grab... It's hard on everyone. Yeah, it is. It is. Propaganda, 1982. It is. We're gonna pivot for a second, and I'm gonna read, Why It's for Yorrick, because it's a little more contemporary. You streamers keep us upbeat and connected, thanks. Yeah, we're trying. We're really trying. So this is a slightly irreverent Shakespearean ABC book for grown-ups. But as I announced tonight with Shakespearean sonnets, I really doubt that we have that many little kids in the audience. It's not... Like, I don't think it gets, like... body, if that makes sense. I think it's more just like, it gets a little gruesome, this book. It's been a while since I read it. I apparently bought it for $17.84 in, can I see the date? In 2012. I bought this book in 2012 for $17.84. So let's have a little fun with this. A is for Ariel. Ariel was graceful, efficient, and a good servant whose acts led people towards better lives. Of course, Ariel was a fairy and was not real. B is for Beatrice and Benedict. Beatrice and Benedict were a couple of Italians who were constantly fighting and insulting each other, and eventually they decided they were in love. B is also for Bottom. Bottom was a self-important, working-class man that, like many people, went around among friends and colleagues, not realizing that he was an ass. C is for Cleopatra. Cleopatra. Cleopatra was a beautiful and histrionic queen who lost her lover as well as her political power and killed herself with a poisonous snake. Cleopatra cornered the market on drama queen for all time. C is also for Claudius. He killed his brother and married his brother's widow, Gertrude. However, he forgot to take into account the stepchildren. D is for Desdemona. Desdemona was a virtuous and beautiful woman. Many people admire her for choosing her own husband rather than letting her father arrange the marriage. Unfortunately, it did not turn out too well for her in the end. D is also for Dennis. Dennis was a very minor character whom no one remembers. E is for Edmund. Edmund was a bastard. F is for Falstaff. Falstaff was a portly friend of Prince Hal. He teaches you that you can be a drunk, thief, liar, and coward and still be loved if you make people laugh. G is for Ghost. Banquo, Julius Caesar, and Old Hamlet all made excellent ghosts. H is for Hamlet. Hamlet was a young man who had a hard time making decisions. He was also a prince. Young people should not be like Hamlet, who was responsible for the deaths of his fiancée, his future father-in-law, his brother-in-law, his stepfather, and his mother, all because he had a lot of trouble with follow-through. H is also for Henry V. Henry was a nice young man who made inspiring speeches and conquered France. H is additionally for Henry VIII. Henry VIII was a fat and licentious king. He liked to divorce his wives or sometimes cut their heads off. He was the first of what we today would call a serial monogamist. I is for Iago. Iago was a malevolent guy who destroyed the life of his boss simply because he could. If he were around today, he would probably be a lawyer. J is for Juliet. Juliet teaches all young girls that if you truly love someone wholly and completely, it will be the death of you. J is also for Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar was the most important leader in the history of Rome, but he was also not very good at choosing friends. K is for Catherine of Aragon. Catherine was the first wife of Henry VIII and had the misfortune of not producing a male heir. She was also Spanish and overly religious, both of which seemed to annoy Henry. L is for Lear. Lear was a king who had a serious problem with estate management. He is a good example of why you should not let your family read your will until after you're dead. M is for Macbeth. Macbeth was someone who was bullied by his wife's ambitions, and it got him a job he couldn't handle. He shouldn't have listened to the witches either. N is for nurse. The nurse was Juliet's surrogate mother and confidant. Everyone wishes they had someone in their life like the nurse. O is for Ophelia. Ophelia was a young woman who spent too much time letting other people tell her what to do rather than thinking for herself. Young women should not be like Ophelia, or instead of being Queen of Denmark, they will end up drowned in some river or another. O is also for Othello. Othello was a successful general who got some bad information. He also had a problem with jealousy. Othello was like the original O.J. Simpson, except he did not get away with it. P is for Polonius. Polonius was a long-winded blowhard who was always giving unwanted advice, and eventually Hamlet killed him. P is also for Prospero. P is also for Prospero. Prospero was a bit of a control freak who liked the special effects, but who knows what any of us would do with unlimited time on a deserted island and a book of magical spells. And P is additionally for Puck. Puck was like Cupid, except he tended to make the wrong people fall in love with each other. Q is for Queen, the wife of Cymbeline, Cymbeline, King of Britain. She was one of the original evil stepmothers. R is for Romeo. Romeo was one of the greatest romantic lovers of all time. He is also a good example of why it is important to get on with your in-laws if you want your marriage to last. R is additionally for Rosencrantz. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead. S is for Shylock. Shylock was a loan shark who got a very bad rap for being Jewish. He also had a problem knowing when it was time to let something drop. T is for Titus Andronicus. Titus was a fairly brutal Roman general bent on revenge. He wasn't very popular. He still isn't. U is for Ursula. Ursula was a maid who nobody remembers either. If you want to be remembered, it is better to be a queen, king, murderer, crossdresser, or a ghost. V is for Viola. Viola was a girl who dressed up as a boy, who fell in love with a man who she... We're going to start this one over again. V is for Viola. Viola? See, I say it Viola, but people have different opinions on how her name is pronounced. Anyway, V is for Viola. Viola was a girl who dressed up as a boy, who fell in love with a man who thought she was a boy. Another woman fell in love with Viola, but ended up marrying her twin brother, who really was a boy. Today, we would say that Viola has some serious transgender identity issues. W is for witches. The three witches who showed up on the moors caused all sorts of trouble, but people tend to forgive them because they repeat this catchy line, double, double, toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble. X is for Polynexes. Polynexes was the king of Bohemia. He spent about 16 years fleeing from some people and chasing others. These shenanigans ultimately culminated at a sheep shearing festival. Y is for Yorrick. He was a man of infinite jest. Z is for Elizabeth. She was the wife of Edward IV and involved with Richard III. But the relationships with these kings and queens are so convoluted that not even Shakespeare can make sense of them. And then there are play summaries. We're going to read the play summary of Hamlet. On a frozen Danish wasteland outside the castle of Islenor, a ghost appears. It is the old King Hamlet. The ghost tells young Hamlet, Prince of Denmark, that he, the king, was murdered by his brother Claudius, Hamlet's uncle, who poured poison in his ear while he was sleeping. Claudius took his throne and married his widow Gertrude, Hamlet's mother. The ghost asked Hamlet to avenge his murder, and Hamlet agrees. Hamlet decides to act like he is mad, thinking erratic behavior might give him access to information and afford him an opportunity to kill his uncle. Hamlet had been courting Ophelia, and she is in love with him. Her father, Polonius, and her brother, Laertes, do not think that Hamlet is serious about her, and have been trying to get her to break it off. Hamlet begins behaving strangely towards Ophelia and treating her horribly. Polonius reports this behavior to Claudius and Gertrude. Claudius sends Hamlet's boyhood friends Rosencrantz and Guildenstern to spy on him. Hamlet is torn between belief that the ghost was his father, and he must avenge him, and that it was some dark spirit sent to get him to commit murder. When a visiting acting troupe comes to court, he decides that they should reenact the murder, and he will watch his uncle's response. When the murder is performed on stage, Claudius is visibly shaken. Gertrude summons Hamlet to her room to explain his strange behavior. While he is there, Polonius is hiding behind the curtain, eavesdropping. He makes a noise, and Hamlet, thinking that he's Claudius, stabs him to death. Fearing for his life, Claudius concocts a plan to send Hamlet on a supposed diplomatic mission to England. In reality, once he is abroad, he is to be murdered. Rosencrantz and Guildenstern go with him. The plan goes awry. Hamlet escapes and sends his friends, Rosencrantz and Guildenstern, to their deaths instead. Ophelia, heartbroken over Hamlet's treatment of her and the brutal death of her father, goes mad. Laertes is enraged at Hamlet because of his sister's madness and his father's death. He and Claudius make a plan. Laertes will challenge Hamlet to a fencing match. His sword tip will be poisoned, and thus he can kill Hamlet by merely scratching him with it. As a backup plan, Claudius will offer Hamlet a goblet of poisoned wine. Meanwhile, Ophelia drowns herself. Two gravediggers are digging Ophelia's grave. Hamlet arrives at the scene. One of the gravediggers unearths the skull of Yorrick, the old court jester, whom Hamlet knew well. The funeral procession arrives, and Hamlet and Laertes get into a fistfight over the open grave. Laertes and Hamlet meet for the fencing match. The match begins and death ensues. Gertrude toasts Hamlet and drinks from the poisoned goblet. Laertes pierces Hamlet with the poisonous blade. Hamlet in turn cuts Laertes with the same blade. Hamlet stabs Claudius with the poisoned blade and then makes him drink from the poisoned goblet for good measure. When Fortinbras, the neighboring prince, arrives on the scene, he finds the royal family dead. In his dying moments, Hamlet names Fortinbras as successor to the Danish throne. Yeah, that's a pretty good brutal summary of that play. Oh, I'm a little scared because the poem, the little bit about Viola was a little bit, I don't know, it felt a little icky. I would amend the one about Viola, that we would say the line of today we would say Viola had some serious transgender identity issues. I would say that Viola had some serious gender identity issues. I would not necessarily say that she is transgender. Possibly non-binary, possibly gender non-conforming. Definitely I do think Viola textually has some identity issues. I wouldn't even know if I would say it was an issue, though. I don't think it's actually an issue. I have lots of feelings on Twelfth Night. Twelfth Night is one of my favorite plays. And I love Cesario. I just love, and I love. Ugh, I love so much about it. I love the idea that Cesario is, like, actually her true identity. I love the idea that, like, Violet could be non-binary. I love so many things about it. Anyway, let's get back to the sonnets. We'll do a couple more, and then I think I'm gonna sign off a little early tonight. Gonna just turn to another random page. Let's do, let's do this one where he insults his girlfriend, maybe? I don't know. People argue on the meaning of sonnet 130, but... My mistress's eyes are nothing like the sun. Coral is far more red than her lips red. If snow be white, why then her breasts are dun. If hairs be wires, black wires grow on her head. I have seen roses damasked red and white, but no such roses see I in her cheeks. And in some perfumes there is more delight than in that breath that from my mistress reeks. I love to hear her speak, yet well I know that music hath a far more pleasing sound. I grant I never saw a goddess go, my mistress when she walks treads on the ground. And yet, by heaven, I think my love as rare as any she belied with false compare. Thou art as tyrannous, so as thou art, as those whose beauties proudly make them cruel. For well thou know'st, to my dear doting heart, thou art the fairest and most precious jewel. Yet in good faith some say to thee that thee behold, thy face hath not the power to make love groan. To say they err I dare not be so bold, although I swear it to myself alone, and to be sure that is not false, I swear 1,000 groans. But thinking on thy face, one on another's neck do witness bear, thy black is fairest in my judgment's place. Thou art, in nothing art thou black save in thy deeds, and thence this slander as I think proceeds. Thine eyes I love, and they as pitying me, knowing thy heart torment me with disdain, have on black and loving mourners be, looking with pretty ruth upon my pain, and truly not this morning sun of heaven better becomes the grey cheeks of the east, nor that full star that ushers in the even doth half that glory to the sober west, as those two morning eyes become thy face. Oh, let it then as well beseem thy heart to mourn for me, since morning doth thee grace, and suit thy pity like in every part. Then will I swear beauty herself is black, and all they foul that thy complexion lack. Beshrew that heart that makes my heart to groan, for that deep wound it gives my friend and me. 'Tis not enough to torture me alone, but slave to slavery my sweet's friend must be. Me from myself thy cruel eye hath taken, and my next self thou harder hast engrossed. Of himself, myself, and thee I am forsaken, a torment thrice threefold thus to be crossed. Prison my heart in thy steel bosom's ward. But then, my friend's heart, let my poor heart bail. Who erst keeps me, let my heart be his guard. Thou canst not then use rigour in my jail, and yet thou wilt, for I, being pent in thee, perforce am thine, and all that is in me. So now I have confessed that he is thine, and I myself am mortgaged to thy will, myself all forfeit, so that other mine thou wilt restore to be my comfort still. But thou wilt not, nor he will not be free, for thou art covetous, and he is kind. He learned but surety like to write for me under that bond that him as fast doth bind. The statue of thy beauty thou wilt take, thou usurer that puttest forth all to use, and sue a friend came debtor for my sake. So him I lose through my unkind abuse. Him have I lost, thou hast both me and him, he pays the whole, and yet I am not free. Whoever hath her wish, thou hast thy will, and will to boot, and will in overplus, more than enough I am that vex still thee, to thy sweet will making addition thus. Wilt thou, whose will is large and spacious, not once vouchsafe to hide my will in thine? Shall will in others seem right gracious, and in my will no fair acceptance shine? The sea all water yet receives rain still, and in abundance addeth to his store. So thou, being rich in will, add to thy will one will of mine to make thy large will more. Let no unkind nor fair beseechers kill. Think all but one, and me in that one will. If thy soul check thee that I come so near, swear to thy blind soul that I was thy will, and will thy soul knows is admitted there. Thus far for love, my love sweet, sweet fulfilled. Will fulfill the treasure of thy love. Aye, fills it full with wills, and my will one. In things of great receipt with ease we prove, among a number one is reckoned none. Then in the number let me pass untold. Through thy store's account I one must be, for nothing hold me, so it please thee hold, that nothing me a something sweet to thee. Make but my name thy love, and thou that still, and then thou lovest me, for my name is Will. Thou blind fool, love, what dost thou to mine eyes, that thee behold, and see not that they see? They know what beauty is, see where it lies, yet what the best is take the worst to be. If eyes corrupt by over-partial looks be anchored to the bay where all men ride, why of eyes' falsehood hast thou forged hooks, whereto the judgment of my heart is tied? Why should my heart think that a several plot, which my heart knows the wide world's commonplace, or mine eyes, seeing this, say this is not, to put fair truth upon so foul a face? In things right true my eyes and heart have erred, and to this false plague which they are now transferred. When my love swears she is made of truth, I do believe her, though I know she lies, that she might think me some untutored youth, unlearned in the world's false subtleties. Thus vainly thinking that she thinks me young, although she knows my days are past the best. Simply I credit her false speaking tongue. On both sides thus is simple truth suppressed. But wherefore says she not she is unjust? And wherefore say I that I am old? Oh, love's best habit, it is seeming trust, and age in love loves not to have years told. Therefore I lie with her, and she with me, and all our faults by lies we flattered be. Oh, call me not to justify the wrong that thy unkindness lays upon my heart. Wound me not with thine eye, but with thy tongue. Use power with power, and slay me not by art. Tell me thou lovest elsewhere but my sight. Dear heart, forbear to glance thine eyes aside. What needst thou wound with cunning, when thy might is more than my o'erpressed defence can bide? Let me excuse thee, ah, my love well known, her pretty looks have been mine enemies, and therefore from my face she turns my foes, and that they elsewhere might dart their injuries, yet do not so, but since I am near slain, kill me outright with looks, and rid my pain. Be wise as thou art cruel, do not press my tongue-tied patience with too much disdain. Let sorrow lend me words, and words express the manner of my pity-wanting pain. If I might teach thee wit, better it were, though not to love, yet love to tell me so, as testy sick men, when their deaths be near, no news but health from their physician know. For if I should despair, I should grow mad, and in my madness might speak ill of thee. Now this ill-resting world is grown so bad, mad slanderers by mad ears believe it be. That I may not be so, nor thou belied, bear thine eyes straight, though thy proud heart go wide. In faith I do not love thee with mine eyes, for they in thee 1,000 errors note, but 'tis my heart that loves what they despise, who in despite of you is pleased to dote. Nor are mine eyes with thy tongue's tune delighted, nor tender feeling to base touch prone, nor taste nor smell desire to be invited to any sensual feast with thee alone. But my 5 wits nor my 5 senses can dissuade one foolish heart from serving thee, whose leaves unswayed the likeness of a man, thy proud heart slave and vassal wretch to be. Only my plague thus far I count my gain, that she that makes me sin awards me pain. Love is my sin, and thy dear virtue hate. Hate of my sin grounded on sinful loving. Oh, but when compare thou thine own state, and thou shalt find it merits not reproving. Or if it do, not from those lips of thine that have profaned their scarlet ornaments, and sealed false bonds of love as oft as mine, robbed others' beds revenue of their rent. Be it lawful, I love thee as thou lovest those whom thine eyes woo as mine importune thee. Root pity in thy heart, that when it grows, thy pity may deserve to pitied be. If thou dost seek to have what thou dost hide, by self-example mayst thou be denied. Lo, as a careful housewife runs to catch one of her feathered creatures broke away, sets down her babe and makes all swift dispatch in pursuit of the things she would have stay, whilst her neglected child holds her in chase, cries to catch her, whose busy care is bent to follow that which flies before her face, not prizing her poor infant's discontent. So runnest thou after that which flies from thee, while I, thy babe, chase thee afar behind. But if thou catch thy hope, turn back to me, and play the mother's part, kiss me, be kind. So will I pray that thou mayest have thy will, if thou turn back and my loud crying still. 2 loves I have of comfort and despair, which like 2 spirits do suggest me still. The better angel is a man right fair, the worser spirit a woman coloured ill. To win me soon all hell my female evil tempteth my better angel from my side, and would corrupt my saint to be a devil, wooing his purity in her foul pride. And whether that my angel be turned fiend, suspect I may, yet not directly tell. But being both from me, both to each friend, I guess one angel in another's hell. Yet this shall I ne'er know, but live in doubt, till my bad angel fire my good one out. Those lips that love's own hand did make breathed forth the sound that I said I hate. Those lips that love's own hand did make breathed forth the sound that said I hate. To me that languished for her sake, but when she saw my woeful state, straight in her heart did mercy come, chiding that tongue that ever sweet was used in giving gentle doom, and taught it thus anew to greet I hate. She altered with an end that followed as the gentle day doth follow night, who, like a fiend, from heaven to hell is flown away. I hate from hate away she threw, and saved my life, saying, not you. Poor soul, the centre of my sinful earth, these rebel powers that thee array, why dost thou pine within and suffer dearth, painting thy outward wall so costly gay? Why so large cost, having so short a lease, dost thou upon thy fading mansions spend? Shall worms, inheritors of this excess, eat up thy charge? Is this thy body's end? Then soul, live thou upon thy servant's loss, and let that pain to aggravate thy store, by terms divine and selling hours of dross, within be fed, without be rich no more. So shalt thou feed on death that feeds on men, and death once dead, there's no more dying then. My love is as a fever, longing still for that which longer nurseth the disease, feeding on that which doth preserve the ill, thy uncertainty sickly appetite to please. My reason the physician to my love, angry that his prescriptions are not kept, hath left me, and I desperate now approve. Desire is death, which physic did accept. Past cure I am now. Now reason is past care, and frantic mad with evermore unrest. My thoughts and my discourse are madmen's are, at random from the truth vainly expressed. For I have sworn thee fair, and thou thee bright, who art as black as hell, as dark as night. O me, which eyes hath love put in my head? O me, what eyes hath love put in my head, which have no correspondence with true sight, Or if they have, where is my judgment fled that censors falsely when they see aright? If that be fair whereon my false eyes dote, what means the world to say that it is not so? If it be not, then love doth well denote. Love's eyes is not so true as all men's know. How can it be? Oh, how can love's eye be true, that is so vexed with watching and with tears? No marvel then, though I mistake my view, the sun itself sees not till heaven clears. O cunning love, with tears thou keep'st me blind, lest eyes while seeing thy foul fault should find. Canst thou, O cruel, say I love thee not, when I myself against myself with thee partake? Do I not think on thee when I forget, am of myself all tyrant for thy sake? Who hateth thee that I do call my friend, upon whom frown'st not that I do fawn upon? Nay, if thou lorest on me, do I not spend revenge upon myself with present moan? What merit do I in myself respect, that is so proud thy service to despise, when all my best doth worship thy defect, commanded by the motion of thine eyes? But love, hate on, for now I know thy mind, those that can see thou lov'st, and I am blind. Oh, from what power hast thou this powerful might, with insufficiency my heart to sway, to make me give the lie to my true sight, and swear that brightness doth not grace the day? Whence hast thou this becoming of ill things, that in the very refuse of thy deeds there is such strength and warranties of skill, that in my mind thou worst all best exceeds? Who taught thee how to make me love thee more? The more I hear and see just cause of hate, O thou, though I love what others do abhor, with others thou shouldst not abhor my state. If thy unworthiness raised love in me, more worthy I to be beloved of thee. You've been listening to A Book at Bedtime, a Story Ranger Presents production. Tonight we read Y is for Yorrick by Jennifer Adams, and various sonnets by William Shakespeare from the Norton Shakespeare Anthology. Thank you ever so much for watching, viewers. I promise next stream is going to be more upbeat. We are going to begin our next, I believe, we are going to begin our next chapter book, which is The Wind in the Willows, which won out, to Pride and Prejudice by a very narrow margin, only because I do actually have a fair amount of friends who have small children, and The Wind in the Willows isn't really a children's book, but it's safe for children. It's weird. It's a little bit more child friendly than Pride and Prejudice. Not that Pride and Prejudice is like mature in any way. It's just that like it's much more like these are adults going about and doing adult stuff, and The Wind in the Willows these are animals and they're putzing around in boats. So kids are a little bit more attracted to that. Anyway. Thank you ever so much for your continued support of the channel. You can support me financially on patreon.com/storyranger. You can find me on Twitter and interact with me @storyranger. You can find the VODs on YouTube @storyranger. And always, I will be streaming here every night except Mondays and Fridays at 8 p.m. Eastern Daylight Savings Time on twitch.tv/storyranger. Have a week, you know? It doesn't have to be great. You matter. You're important. Thank you for joining me. Bye!